What advice would you give to someone thinking about taking on a new challenge later in life?
We're the youngest that we'll ever be ever again. Maybe it's not should I do it, but how can I do it? And, taking that first step, I believe that people are inspired by other people pursuing their dreams. You got to treat yourself right first, and you got to take care of yourself first.
Welcome to the $100 Million Mindset, the source for business owners who aspire to scale, grow, and reach their full potential. Whether you're aiming for 5 million, 10 million, or 100 million. Your hosts are Alan O'Neill, the Irish plumber, who scaled Abacus Plumbing and Cooling to over 100 million, and Smells Like Teen Spirit, Todd Liles, a coach to high-performing business leaders and the owner of Service Excellence, are going to help you think bigger, act smarter, and take your business to the next level.
Today's guest is someone who embodies both leadership in business and discipline in life. She's the president and CEO of Brothers Plumbing, Heating, and Electric in Denver, Colorado, a family-owned company that has grown into being one of Denver's leading home service providers. Alongside her siblings, she has scaled and modernized the business while staying true to its core values. But beyond business, she is also an athlete, a fitness influencer, I say, although she doesn't say. And now she's stepping into the world of modeling. Joining us today is none other than Lynn Tomasek. Lynn, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Todd and Alan. I really do appreciate the opportunity to speak with you guys today.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure.
It's great to see you again, Lynn. It's been a few years since the last PSI meeting I was at many years ago, so great to see you again. You
Good to
didn't
see you.
just step into a leadership role, you earned it. You grew up in a family business, you worked every odd job available before moving into HR and marketing. And when the time came to take over in 2015, you had to navigate the complexities with your siblings of running a company together while preserving your dad's legacy. What was it like growing up in the family business, and when did you realize you wanted to lead it?
Oh my gosh, growing up in the family business was, it was a lot of hard work. We got to see all the sacrifices that my dad made and also the hard work that he put into running the business. There was a lot of fun as well. You got to go to work to take your child to work day every single day, it felt like in the summers. We spent a lot of time playing with pipe and water heater boxes, making race cars and doing different things in the warehouse. So we got to do things that probably most kids don't have an opportunity to do and be kind of the behind the scenes. I remember a lot of times doing some ride-alongs with my dad, going to customers' homes. That's not something that's likely done in today's world as much, but we had the opportunity to do that back when we were growing up. We ended up doing a lot of different tasks that, like you mentioned as well. So, I started cleaning bathrooms when I was in middle school. I'd walked, no, this is not a joke. It wasn't walk uphill both ways, in the snowstorm, but literally I walked from my middle school to the office at that time on Fridays, and I'd clean the bathrooms and the office space. Had an opportunity to do yard work. I cleaned trucks, and my brother and sister did as well. So we had an opportunity to be involved in all the different tasks that were behind the scenes growing up in the business. And we watched our dad put in a lot of hard work and sacrifice, but there was a lot of reward with it too. So by the time I was in high school, I knew that that was something that I wanted to take over. I knew it was something that I wanted to be a part of, and that it would provide a good living for me and my family. So I went to college, got a marketing degree, a small business management degree, and came back and worked in the summers and came back and decided to take over and started my journey early, but definitely, decided at that time that that's what I wanted to do.
Let's get a little bit of an understanding here. So, my daughter's 14. She's in middle school, about to go to high school. So, when you were 14, walking to work after middle school to get the job going, what age was Michelle, your sister, and Justin, your brother?
So I'm the second oldest. Justin is 2 years older than I am. And Michelle's about 3 years younger, but 2 years in school. So we are all, about 2 years apart. Michelle would have been elementary or maybe, depending on what year in middle school. Justin was starting his journey here too. He was apprenticing already, working in the warehouse, doing odd jobs also. And that was, his job right away was learning and under my dad's apprenticeship and how to become a plumber from his very early age.
So, okay, this leads me to my question because I want to ask how you and your siblings handle decision making and conflict resolution. And I also just want to point out that I am married to the middle daughter. And it seems to me that middle children just seem to have to achieve at a higher level because they weren't the firstborn and they weren't the baby. That isn't anywhere in my list of questions, but it's an observation that I have found to be true in life. So I want to check with you. How has all of these things played together? You being the middle child, but also you working with your sister and your brother when it comes to just operating the business and making decisions.
It is definitely unique with me being, the second child. You may assume with my brother having the plumbing knowledge and being the older sibling, maybe even gender roles, that he would be the likely person in the CEO role. But I have always held some of those first child personality traits, always been very driven at an early age. My brother is much more laid back. He is more quiet, more reserved personality. And so kind of fit into our roles kind of naturally came about based off of our natural abilities and leadership skills and personalities. As far as like working together, I feel very fortunate to work with my best friend, which is my sister. We get along really well. And I'm most proud that as a family business, you hear horror stories about families getting together and not getting along and maybe having, blowout arguments in the hallway and things like that. And it's never been like that as our family. We've always been able to work well together with my dad, even here. And, we've maintained great family relationships. We'll work together all week and then we're together on the weekends as well. So I think the reason it works is we have a lot of team collaboration. So a lot of, we collaborate well together. We have shared leadership. We respect each other's opinions and our positions and our skills and strengths. And we trust each other. So it's really important to be able to trust each other in our roles and our abilities. And I think another thing that keeps things going well is that we've always treated each other very equally. So regardless of the position within the company, we're very accountable to each other for time off. We keep our time equal. Everything that we do, we've just kept it very equal and not nickeled and dimed like I have this position, so I should make this much more than you, or any of those types of scenarios. We've just always wanted to make sure that wasn't ever a point of contention between all of us.
That's great. What's your leadership philosophy, Lynn, when it comes to running a multi-generational business?
It's very much, again, a team collaboration. I am not the smartest person in the room. I've got a lot of experience. I have a lot of, knowledge from having mentored under my dad for so long and knowing the business inside and out and having held so many roles within the company. But I also know that I am not, again, the smartest person in the room. And I know that all the brains coming together that will come up with a better solution. So very much a very team collaborative type of atmosphere around here. We will definitely, veto a decision or come together and somebody's got to be that final decision maker. But it's all about, getting the opinion, getting the point of view, the perspective, because what we realize is that while I can make a decision on something, I don't always know how it might impact another person in the company or another position or department within the company. And so by sharing the decisions and things that we're talking about doing, you get their point of view to make the best decision possible that is a win-win-win for all people involved. So it's very much that team collaboration and shared leadership that makes us successful.
That's really great. And I've heard you say that you don't build a great business alone, that you do it through great people. And that's sort of an ongoing motif in your life. So, and I think that's tremendous. Let's stop for just a moment and talk a little bit about brothers, because under your leadership, and along, of course, with Michelle and Justin, you guys didn't just maintain this business. You've actually expanded it. You've grown it. The reputation has scaled. All things have been good. So I apologize. I didn't send this to you in advance because it's just sort of hitting me now. But what year did you guys take it over from your father, and where were you guys roughly in terms of number of people or revenue? Best guess. And then where are you guys heading in this year, just so people can sort of see how the company has grown?
Sure. It's not a problem. So we took over the business almost exactly 10 years ago. So it was in 2015 that we made the purchase and the transition. We were talking about it, kind of working through that for several years prior to that. I was mentoring under my dad. I took over as the general manager the year before in that role, but the actual purchase took place in March of 2015. When I assumed the president and he, moved on and left the company. And at that time, we were doing about $8 million in revenue. Last year, we closed out just shy of 25, and we'll be on track for about $26.5 million this year.
Awesome.
It's great.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Part of having to expand like that has to mean that you guys have had to build a strong team. So, from your experience, what is the most effective way to do that, build a strong team?
I feel very fortunate that some of the leadership that we have has been with us for a very long time. And so, but we've seen people come and go, and, people that get you to where you're at aren't necessarily the people that you start with. And so it's really about, few years ago, we really realized that we were having a hard time recruiting. And so I ended up splitting a role within my company, and she ended up coming on and doing some full-time recruitment. It used to be HR. We try to do it in between tasks. HR is very deadline driven. And so having somebody that was solely focused on the recruitment portion of the business and bringing in good talent, using different personality tests to make sure that they had the personality that fit the role that which we were hiring was key as well. And so she was able to focus on the recruitment and the culture piece all at the same time, finding people that are hungry, humble, and smart. And then being very consistent in our processes for interview, onboarding, orientation, and just really developing that team over time. It takes time. It takes time to find the right people that you trust, the right people to train them, and have them where they understand your business and the culture that that you're looking to have.
Well, we all know finding them is tough, Lynn, but retaining them can be equally as tough. What strategies have worked for you for retaining your people?
We really focus on having a good culture. So, core values, our family care excellence, that's first and foremost, right? So, understanding that, yes, we have team members, but we also refer to them as our extended family, and having that care core value at the heart of our culture. If we take care of our employees, clients, customers, then business just takes care of itself, and that comes true. So we really spend a lot of time making sure we have those one-on-one conversations with our team. We have an open door policy. So, I had 3 technicians in my office this morning. They know they can come and chat with me, unless I'm on a podcast, I have my door closed, right? So, but outside of that, it's, we're available as owners. We're very accessible to our team. We're available for them to have conversations with, very involved in the day to day. Again, I think finding the right people for the right job is important to retaining people. If you hire the wrong person that doesn't necessarily have the personality or the skill set for the job in which you're hiring them for, they're going to have burnout. You're going to have people that aren't going to last in the role. So some of those things that we've implemented have been really important to that retention. We do something called Culture Index, which really measures some of those different traits that people have. If it's a detail-oriented position, and you hire somebody that doesn't naturally have that detail orientation, then it's going to be more of a challenge for them. We do a lot of recognition as well. So we are very focused on having recognition and acknowledging people and showing a lot of gratitude for what they accomplish. Not just on the numbers part. A lot of people focus on numbers, and of course we're very numbers focused as well, but also focusing on the non-measurable things that people might do, which we call it our gem, going the extra mile, things that they do for the client that should be recognized as well in developing those client relationships. So there's a lot of things that we've built into our culture. Pay is important, but I also know that it's not the only thing that people look for. They want to be paid well, they need to be paid well, but also having a great culture where they feel at home and that provides them with the other needs that they have is super important.
I agree. So then at lunch, we got into this really deep conversation about the future of the trades. And we talked about how AI is going to play into it, maybe even AI with robots. We talked about many things that I'm not going to ask you to go there. Instead, I'm just going to ask you about how do you personally see the future of the trades? Like, what do you see coming? And in combination with that, how do you see continuing to attract people into the trades with this future that we're heading towards?
I think there's my husband's in education, and with him being in education, there has been so much of focus on people going to college, right? Traditional four-year colleges. And we're seeing a shift. So, we see a shift when my youngest is graduated from high school a couple of years ago. And at, one of the events, they would have people recognize, I think it was a, orchestra event or something, and they would have people on stage and they would recognize their senior year, what they were doing post
Mm-hmm.
high school. And so they would say what colleges they were going to. And definitely there's abundance of people going to a four-year, a few people going to the military, but I always was so excited when I'd hear the few kids that would go into the trades. And I think there's a definitely more of an awareness that you don't have to go to a four-year school any longer to get an education that you may or may not use and come out with all this debt. So I think there's a shift starting to happen, which is great. So we continue to have conversations and work with the high schools and, get involved with that, sending our message out. There's a program here that's like master apprenticeship. So we try to get involved with that, with getting the word out about the trades. We recently donated to a trades program at a high school, donated some electrical materials. So any kind of involvement that we can get there to get the word out. And then once we have a lot of referrals too, so we have some pretty young people involved in the business, a couple in the warehouse specifically, and they bring their friends in, right? They talk to their friends, and so they recruit their friends and tell them what a great opportunity it is. And by being able to send the message that we're going to pay for your tools, we're going to help you learn how to do what you need to do while you earn money, and then provide them with a path to do that. So they start in our warehouse, they're learning the parts and pieces and materials, maybe washing the trucks, doing some of the things that we used to do, and then it gives them the opportunity to grow and to progress in their career as their maturity progresses as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got people that are in their early 20s making a very nice living that never went to college, and and they have friends working here, and people they say this age, they like to have their work with their friends. And so if we can provide that environment for them, then they're going to want to stay where their friends are. They're going to bring more of their friends in, and it's a win-win for everybody.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great, Lynn. And no business journey, Lynn, is without roadblocks. For you, some of the toughest lessons came from navigating growth while staying true to your company values, whether it was hiring the right managers, making tough financial decisions, or adapting to changing market demands. You had to learn resilience and strategy at every stage. What's a defining moment where you had to make a really tough leadership decision?
Gosh, been in the business officially since graduating from college for 25 years. In 10 years, running the business with just Justin and Michelle. And there's been a lot of tough decisions. I mean, navigating COVID, right? I mean, we
Mm,
can name so many different things when it comes to that. I think, I like to make a joke though, that I have commitment issues. And so I'm a fiercely loyal person. And I think that, most people have a problem making a commitment. I have trouble breaking a commitment. And
Mm.
that includes breaking a commitment to people that I commit to. And so with me being fiercely loyal, terminating an employee, it can be difficult, right? We
Mm.
haven't always made the best hires. There's maybe circumstances where you thought you were and they're still not able to do the role. And so defining moments are for me are any time that I've had to turn over an important person or people within my company, because I'm committed to more than just the role. I'm committed to the person, and it always hurts to have to make that decision. But I think that commitment, what makes it easier is the commitment to be able to look at the greater good of what needs to happen, and not just the commitment to the one person, but to the entire team that helps us to, navigate those decisions. and finding the next person that's going to fill that role. And those are always the most defining moments for me, is when I lose that person on my team, have to replace them. And generally, I find myself making a better hire and leveling up even more so. But it's sometimes really tough to get through that process of doing that.
Yeah. Does it I love how you say you got a commitment issue, but it's the opposite of what people think. That brings me great joy. Just the pithy
Yeah.
statement of that. I'm gonna have to hang on to that for myself. Do you find that letting go of some of these people is difficult because of how you feel about them emotionally, or is it a fear that you have of your own? And I'll give you some reference for this. I needed to have a really tough conversation with my father at one point, and I didn't know how to have it. So first, I talked to the guy that's my counselor, and he walked me through the reasons I need to have the conversation. And the thing that gave me the freedom of it is that he had asked me, "Do you want this relationship in your life?" And I said, "I do." And he said, "Do you want this relationship in your life, even if your father doesn't say the things you want him to say?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." So he sort of gave me the clarity of understanding that having that relationship is actually my choice. How he reacts is not my choice, but how I handle it is mine. So I never walked away with permission going, "Oh, wow, I am going to have a tough conversation with my dad. And he may not actually say any of the things I hope he says, but I have made the decision to maintain this relationship, whether it's a great conversation or not. And I will deal with the consequences of that because he's my father and I want him in my life." But he also made it perfectly clear that it's okay if I don't, which I thought was weird because no one's ever told me that.
Hmm.
Like, it's okay not to have this relationship. It's like, wait a minute, really? I get that choice as a human? He's like, we all have that choice as a human. So I wanted to be vulnerable first so that I could turn it over and say, where is it emotionally for you when it comes to letting go of someone that you know that maybe you should?
I think, there's just this deep level of commitment, that I was instilled in me as a child. And um, sure, there's, we invest so much time and energy and love into the people that we work with, and we want to see them be successful. And so, anytime that you put that much effort into something, it's hard to let it go. And I know business is not supposed to be emotional. I know business is supposed to be, it's all about business. But the fact is that we care. We don't just say it's just not our core, it's not just not our core value, but we actually care about these people. But sometimes we care so much about them, but like I said, everybody, that we have to let go of somebody to be able to, because we care about the greater good,
Mm,
or even the caring about that individual to let them pursue something that might be a better fit for them. And so, giving them that opportunity. Over the years, I've had a hard time letting go of personal relationships, right? I've had a really rough divorce that, and I stayed in that situation a lot longer because of my commitment issues. And,
mm.
ultimately realized that I had to leave for the good of myself and my kids. And, and that was a commitment issue in a different way, right? And sticking in something that's not necessarily the best situation for yourself, and having the realization that it's okay. It's okay to say goodbye. It's okay to move on. And it's okay that you're going to find somebody better by letting go of where you're at and the people that you're, those current people that you're with. And so you have to close one door to open another, and the other is generally better than where the door that you closed.
Yeah, and Lynn, I've known you for a while, and I just want to say that I know just saying what you just said there was tough, and anyone that's been in a tough relationship understands how tough that is. It took me a long time to talk about not my father. That wasn't the tough conversations. My father didn't abuse me. My stepfather did. And the difficult things that my mom and I went through when she finally left for the last time, when I basically given up. I've refused to leave. I'm like, I'm not going to leave. Why leave? You're just going to come back. And that broke her heart to the point that she left and she never came back, was when I was broken.
Hmm.
So I know from personal experience how hard it is so thank you for sharing. And we won't dig into that anymore. I'll ask you a different question, not about personal stuff, just about business decisions. What's one of the biggest mistakes you've made and what did you learn from it?
I have made so many mistakes.
Haven't we
But I
all?
also really work hard and have done a very good job. I've always had this little bit of fear of failure. And with that fear of failure, I've really worked hard to learn from the best and try to avoid having to learn from my own mistakes and to learn from other people. So that's always been my ultimate goal, is not to learn from my own mistakes, but learn from mistakes other people made.
Smart.
So I don't have to make the same ones and go through that same pain. But I still make a lot of mistakes. And kind of on the same path that we've been on, I think, hiring the wrong person for the wrong seat might be, top of the list. We've tried to turn people into people that they're not. So might have a good technician that isn't necessarily a good manager, or a good CCR that isn't necessarily a good, manager of that department and of people. And why that's can be maybe not the biggest mistake I've ever made, but why it becomes a big mistake is because it impacts not just that one person, and you end up losing generally the good person that they were in the role that they had, but also it impacts the rest of your team. And as a
Hmm.
result, you generally lose other people that you may not have otherwise if you had put the right person in the role to had managed them and lead to begin with. And so that's always really hard, because it's a trickle down effect that is not good. And so we'd really try to work hard to, find the right people, train them to provide what's needed, making sure the right person is the right seat from the get-go. And that, I think that's because the impact is so much bigger than, again, just that one person. So maybe
Hmm.
not the biggest mistake, but definitely a mistake that's been made.
Lynn, if you could mentor an entrepreneur today, what's the first lesson you'd teach them?
Well, I'm grateful that I've had a lot of great mentors in my life. And so, with that, and with the organizations that we belong to, I actually have the opportunity, and I just have so much gratitude when somebody reaches out to me and believes that I have something to share. So I have that opportunity to have people come in my business or ask me questions in which I share. And I think one of the things that's super important, two things. One is creating systems and processes. I think it's super important to be able to create those, especially as a small business or somebody that may have multiple hats. By creating processes and procedures, it allows you to have consistency within your business. It allows you to be able to duplicate yourself as you continue to grow, and then you can shed the different hats that you're on, but maintain the training and the consistency that you establish to have that as you continue to grow. And so that is always one of the first things that I, chat with people about is, do you have an SOP? Have you created a system and process in place for that? And do it while you're small so that you can duplicate it and you can eventually let go of the tasks that you have so you can focus on other higher level items. And then I think also, I think it's super important. I was raised in a different generation where you weren't supposed to be vulnerable as a leader. You're
Mm.
supposed to, be very closed off. You're supposed to always have the right answer. You're supposed to be strong and know exactly what you're saying. You weren't supposed to say you didn't know. And I think it's important as a leader also to be super vulnerable with your team and to let them know when you don't know, to, tell them that but you're going to find out. Still have that confidence, but being vulnerable as a leader, I think, is more important these days, and able to connect with your team and for them to trust you.
Yeah.
So those are
Great.
my top two when mentoring people.
Let's switch into a conversation that you and I both have a really deep passion for, which is fitness. Um, I know that we both love that. We both believe that fitness and business have so many things that are relatable and go hand in hand. Uh, you are a competitive athlete. You and your sister are on a basketball league. From what I understand, that's been a huge part of both of your lives for a very long time. And I would call you a fitness influencer, although you made it very clear to me you don't feel like you are. You are. People are watching, they're influenced by what you're doing. So I want to ask you, how has fitness for you shaped your mindset as a business leader?
Well, Todd, you and I know we could talk fitness all day. Like, that is definitely a passion, and it totally ties over, into the business realm. But it's true. I don't think of myself as an influencer. I just love to inspire people, and I love to share, and I've been inspired by others. So I just feel that maybe by sharing my journey, if somebody's inspired along the way, that's great. I use it as an accountability tool more than anything else. But the lessons that are learned, I started playing basketball when I was in high school, and Man, it wasn't easy, right? It wasn't easy. It was tough. I didn't know what I was doing when I first started. I sat the bench. I had to listen to people yell. I had to be a part of a team. And all of that translates over to being in a business. When I first started, and when I first did things, I was insecure. I didn't know what I was doing. I had to sit the bench. I had to play my role while the starters played, and then work my way up into the starting position and earn what I got. And that same is true for business as well. And I think there's so much mental toughness that's involved with being an athlete. We do still play in a basketball league. We played last night, and I still love getting out there. And, I'm a little less competitive these days because I'm a little older, but it still just allows you to compete. Business is competitive. There's so much self-discipline that's involved in it, accountability to yourself and to others if you're going to get results. And you got to have that commitment. And again, that mindset. You got to push through it when it's hard, and you got to do what you don't want to do in order to, see the results. So you got to have that consistency. And the same that's true of business, right? You got to be consistent. You got to have that mindset and that mental toughness to push through those days that maybe you just don't want to do what you have to do to get things done.
Speaking of not doing what you don't want to do, Alan, take a wild guess at what time she gets up every day.
It's weird that you asked that question, Todd, because my next question, I was going to ask you,
Oh, go for it.
do you think discipline and fitness translate to discipline and leadership? But you just answered that, Lynn. But my next question was going to be, what habits keep you performing at a high level every day, and what is your morning routine?
There we go.
So Todd was reading my mind there.
So I get up early, 3:45 or earlier.
Sorry, what? Say that again. 3:45.
3:45 or earlier.
Earlier.
And
That's
My gosh.
my alarm, sometimes the internal clock goes off at 3:30 and I just wake up and I'm ready to go and get up out of bed. It wasn't always like that, I have to be honest. But I have developed these habits over time, and it really sets my day up for success. It's my favorite time of the day. I'm on, right? I'm on all day, every day. I'm talking to people. I have to be there for other people. And just like, you gotta treat yourself right first, and you gotta take care of yourself first. And so creating that morning and my mindset, I don't want to be rolling out of bed and, up for 30 minutes and I'm staggering into the office and, not as sharp as I can be. So I really focus on, I read a book years ago, and even before I read it, I didn't realize I was practicing the routine, which is Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning. And it's all about practicing silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing, which are what he calls the savers. And I add gratitude in there as well. And just having that morning, I always read something for personal development, and just really setting my mind straight first thing in the morning. And exercise is a big part of that. So I will make sure, even if it's just for 10 minutes a day, I'm getting some sort of blood flowing, getting some sort of movement, and really focusing on getting my mind in the right place and my body in the right place to come in and be at the peak that I can be for my team.
Wow.
Yeah. How much sleep do you need?
I was going to ask that as well.
we're
Yeah,
just
like
reading each
like
other's
if you're
minds.
if you're getting up at 3:45, what time are you going to bed at, Lynn? Like, how much sleep are you getting per night?
Well, it depends on what time I have a basketball game. If I have a 9 o'clock basketball game, I get less sleep than I should.
Right.
But generally, I try to get to bed about 9. So I'm not always perfect with that, but try to get enough sleep. I needed more sleep, and right now I just feel excited to start my day and excited for what I've got going on in my world. And so, 5 or 6 hours, I feel rested and I get up. And if I need a little bit more sleep, I listen to myself as well. But
Yeah.
generally, I'm hitting on about 6 hours of sleep a night, maybe 5.
Well, I admire you, Lynn. If I get up at 3:45, I see use the bathroom. That's about it.
Yeah, I like to get 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
So I'm impressed. Everybody's
Well,
different though.
And I'm not saying I'm a model to follow by any means, because I'm not saying that that's great, but it's just what I'm operating on, and I feel good. It's not like
Good.
I'm
That's the
dragging
main thing.
myself out of bed and can't get up, and it's a chore. I'm like literally excited to get up and start my day. So that morning routine, I'm excited for it every single day. My cup of tea and my book, and it makes me happy. It's my
That's
happy
great.
place.
It's good.
Great.
Yeah, and I knew that you had liked how Elrod's approach to savers, and when you had said that to me in the past, I was like, "Oh yeah, I've read that book, and I like that as well." And in the morning when I wake up, I always check my heart rate variability. Alan, it's a fancy way of saying how ready am I for the day. It measures the rhythms in between my heartbeats. So I sort of get this metric numbers, like one of my KPIs. This morning I was at 100%, so I know I was going to have a good day. But then after that, I lay there and I just lay in silence. I'm awake. I'm just laying in the bed. I say a few affirmation words and I visualize a great day and then I get up and go. So I'm a big fan. All right. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here.
Okay.
So you say you're not a fitness influencer. I say you are. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views. You're doing a great job out there. And you're starting to do something new, something that's a little scary for you. It's outside of your comfort zone. You're pursuing modeling. So tell us about that and what inspired that.
And I debated, when you asked me about it, whether I wanted to share. And I'll tell you why I decided to go ahead and share. And that the reason is because I believe that people are inspired by other people
Mm-hmm.
pursuing their dreams. And so that's one of my, most, like, that's one of the things that are core to me is doing that. So it was something that I thought about doing when I was a kid. I'm 6 foot tall, so I'm tall. Never thought a lot about the way I looked when I was younger. Never had that confidence to be able to do that. But a few years ago, I wrote down a dream vision of what I wanted in life, and it didn't include modeling, but it's a thought that's never, ever gone away. And 15 years ago, I looked into it, I chickened out. A few years ago, I was involved with a transformation program for women to get fit and to transform their bodies. We did some photo shoots. I was encouraged to do it then. I chickened out.
Mm,
And so I think right now it's just I did some things over the last couple of years that improved my confidence. I think the timing was right. My kids are grown, and I was encouraged to do it again. And I had this mindset shift of being able to, like, I need to pursue something. If something has not gone away, this thought, it just will not leave. Maybe I owe it to myself to see what's it supposed to be. And I always wanted to justify, like, why do I want what I want? Who am I to think that I can accomplish anything with it? And maybe I won't, and that's okay. It's not about that. It's about the journey to see what happens with it. So I'm taking some classes, and I'm almost through, and we'll see what the journey turns into. But I love
mm.
to inspire others, and so if it gives me a platform or inspires at least one other person out there to pursue their dreams, regardless of what it is, how old they are, what else they've got going on, then I feel like my purpose has been fulfilled and I've done my job. And maybe that's the whole reason I'm supposed to pursue it, right? Not to actually see what comes of it, but just to inspire one other person to go after what they're supposed to go after.
That's so helpful. Alan, Lynn, we talked to Steve Egner. You know Steve, and we've
Hmm.
spoken with two other people today as well. Today is the day of going for it.
I think
That's the
so.
big
Yeah,
message
yeah.
I'm getting is like we've got so much time. We should go for things.
Hmm. Lynn, first of all, you're very inspirational. I, you know, just admire what you're doing. How do you balance running the business with personal passions?
Like, get up early, Alan.
No, you get up in the middle of the night.
Well, I get up early, right? So my personal passions, I spend, that my fitness, right? So I know I'm going to get it done first thing in the morning. Personal development. So those are top two personal, passions for myself. So getting up in the morning is number one, but I also prioritize myself. So I make my things a priority. I work while I work. I play while I play. When I play, I'm in the office. I'm getting my work done. I'm intentional. I do a lot of planning, and so I've been getting together with a friend every quarter for the last few years, and we get together and do some quarterly annual planning.
Mm,
I think Todd, maybe you read the book, The 12-Week Year. So I'm a big book reader, right? And so we based it off of that, where it's the 12-week year and really resetting goals and different things. And so by being intentional about what I want to accomplish and really scheduling, I mean, I'm a scheduled person. I love a schedule, and I live and die by my calendar, right? And so it's, I've got time blocks in there to make sure that I achieve things. I have a fantastic husband who is incredibly supportive and makes sure that he does things for me that, he's an education, so he works a little bit less. He's cooking, he's helping, he does a lot to free up my time. And he's a acts of service provider kind of guy, so it works out really well for us. And, I just tackle it that way. It's all about, and sometimes we even combine stuff here, right? So I'll combine the different mentalities. Our theme this year is discipline, secure success. So I'm tying in some of my personal discipline endeavors with here, and then I'm sharing them with my team as well. And so that's in part, how we get it all done.
Yeah, and your husband is Jeff, right?
Jeff is my husband, and
Shout out to Jeff.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
he's a model husband. I'll just tell you, he's great.
Yeah, model's the key word, Alan. Have you
Model
ever
is a
seen?
model husband,
He
model wife.
he's
Yeah, yeah.
handsome, he's buff, he's fit. They got this whole like attraction system going
There
on
we
over
go.
here.
Lynn,
I manifested them. Yep.
what advice would you give to someone thinking about taking on a new challenge later in life?
We're the youngest that we'll ever be ever again,
Ooh,
right? We're
I
not
love
getting
that.
any
Yeah,
younger.
yeah.
We're not ever going to be younger than the moment that we are right now. And so I think my flaw, the thing that that has kind of kept me from pursuing different things in life, and some of these different goals has been overthinking. A chronic overthinker, perfectionist, and so really focusing on the progress over perfection. And I think I'm not alone. So I try to be vulnerable in my social media, Todd. I really try to share that I'm not a perfect person and that where my vulnerabilities are, to encourage other people that you can pursue those things. And, stop saying, should I? And maybe start focusing on how can I, right? We can go around all day thinking, well, should I do this? I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't do this. But maybe it's not, should I do it, but how can I do it? And, taking that first step. And again, if it's something that you can't stop thinking about, then you owe it to yourself to chase after it. So I think that's the key there, and listen to what's in your heart and soul and what, really what's driving you, and go after it.
that's wonderful.
Great.
Yeah, what you're talking about and what I have said about your influencing of people, because you definitely are. I promise you, there's so many people that are looking at you, and they're not saying to themselves, "Oh, here is a woman that's a CEO of a plumbing company." They're saying, "Here's a woman of a CEO that the CEO of a company that's doing 25 million." It's easy for us to forget that a $25 million business is a sizable business no matter where you are, especially in the trades occupied by a bunch of men. So you're inspiring people, and that's wonderful. We just want to recognize that. Also, don't want to
Thank you.
overplay it either, because there are also plenty of other women that are in the trades, showing that they're totally capable, and it's not that you're out here on an island by yourself. There's plenty of highly successful ladies in the trades, but you are one as well. So let's switch it off and move on to the topic of legacy here, because I know that you believe it's more about money, it's about impact. So my last question of the day before I give it back over to Alan is this: what about legacy? What do you want to leave behind?
For me, I have a personal mission. We have our company mission, but I have a personal mission. And my personal mission is to, make a positive impact on others with every interaction or experience I create with them. And so I don't know why, again, I don't know why I want what I want. I don't know why it's so important to me to inspire others, but I want people to be inspired to do more, to be better every day, and just to, keep chasing and really focused on that next step in life. And so if that's the legacy I want to leave behind, I want people to think about, that I made a positive impact on them, either by something I said or did or experience I created for them, and that I inspired them to do more. And so if I can do that, then that, like, I just feel all the feels inside when I even talk about, that might happen. When I get the few messages, I get messages on social media. That's what keeps me going, when I know that I've impacted somebody, that they are chasing something, or a message has touched them. That's really my purpose in life.
Awesome.
You remind me very much, Lynn, of a Zig Ziglar quote when he said, "You can have everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want."
Mm-hmm.
And that's clearly what you're trying to do. And by doing that, you're achieving a level of success yourself. I just want to ask you a quick couple of questions about mindset, Lynn. What's one mindset shift that that helped you push forward through challenges?
You know, my dad, my commitment issues, right? Those commitment issues are the core of who I am, and they come from my dad, right? I mean, he taught us commitment. Like we learned commitment. You say you're going to do something, you follow through. You do what you say you're going to do, even if you don't feel like doing it. The mood in which you made the commitment may have left, but you better follow through. You don't quit a sport. You don't quit the band. You made a commitment to a person, you follow through. So that commitment that I was taught as a kid, it's one of our B principles. We call it B principles here that we talk about. But it's helped me to push forward through challenges. I made a commitment to you. I made a commitment to the task. I made a commitment to the group that I'm a part of. I'm going to follow through, and it will happen no matter how I feel. And that's where my commitment issues come through, because sometimes I forget it's not a life commitment. It doesn't have to be forever. It just needs to be for a specific amount of time. But that's helped me in the most challenging of moments.
I love it. I love it, Lynn. If you could look back, Lynn, and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
It has to do with the perfectionism in me. It's okay to make a mistake, right? It's okay. It's progress over perfection. It's okay to fail. And with failing, I think it even goes back to those relationships. Because when people leave your life, there's people in your life for a reason, season, or a lifetime. And when people leave your life, it feels it feels like a commitment's broken, and you lose that piece of the person, and it feels like a failure to me. And realizing that people are meant to come and go in your life, and that it's okay to make mistakes. And sometimes those people come and go, even if you've done nothing wrong. And that's what's supposed to happen. They were there to teach you something or be a part of your life and help you through a journey. And generally somebody, again, new is going to come along that's going to help you continue on your journey. So it's okay to fail. It's okay for people to leave your life. And the impact also that you make on people, it's life-changing whether you realize it or not. So I wish, as a younger person, I would have realized some of those things. Maybe I would have continued to do things or done more of them earlier had I known that. But we're all meant to do our journey in the time that we're meant to do it. And, it happens in its own timeline. So
yeah, absolutely. Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Lynn. You've been really inspirational and very, very good. We definitely appreciate it.
Absolutely. Appreciate you showing a little vulnerability and sharing with us your message and your journey. And we look forward to watching over the next couple of years, especially when you guys hit 50 and beyond. That's going to be exciting for all of us to celebrate.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you guys. It's so great to talk to you.
Our
Thank you,
pleasure.
Lynn.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the show this week. Head over to toddliles.com/mindset to get the show notes. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss a new episode of the show. And if you enjoyed this episode, then share it. It really helps us get the word out. You've been watching the $100 Million Mindset with Alan O'Neill and Smells Like Teen Spirit, Todd Liles.